Welcome into another edition of Sports Junkies. Time to talk some Milwaukee Bucks basketball. I'm Steve Sparky Fifer from 105.7 FM The Fan in Milwaukee, co-host of the Wednesday's Big Show weekday afternoons from 2 to 6 in the afternoon. He, of course, Gery Woelfel of the Racine Journal-Times, and talk a little Bucks basketball. The Bucks go to Green Bay on Wednesday night for their first exhibition game, and they win 86-83. Initial impressions from game one.
You think all the Bucks players, all those young, impressionable Bucks players went across the street and got autographs of Aaron Rodgers?
Well, they got a plane to go to Detroit. I don't think they had time.
And now they'll get autographs of Matthew Stafford?
Brandon Jennings.
Brandon Jennings. I don't think that's
maybe
good.
some
Yeah, you know what? That's funny. I actually heard from a couple people in the Pistons organization that Brandon Jennings is looking really good.
He added on about another 15 pounds.
He did, and he's actually maturing. That he's making.
Well, it was a wake-up call when he wanted to go get the big money last year and didn't get it.
Oh, absolutely. Not only that, though, the biggest factor with Jennings is he has a coach now that's not going to take any guff from him.
That's never going to work. Stan Van Gundy and him is never going to work.
It's oil and water. Yeah, no doubt about it. But my point is, if he doesn't toe the line now, he never will.
Agreed.
And Van Gundy, I think, is the perfect coach because he'll come in and say, "Hey, Brandon, you're doing it my way. And if you don't like it, you're going to be on the bench." Right. And that's just going to,
So last night you come out with the Bucks in game one against Memphis. It's Zach Randolph at power forward. The Bucks run Jabari Parker out there at power forward. Now Randolph played half the minutes of Parker. He only played 15 minutes.
Right.
Parker played 31. All right. Mm-hmm. Parker got 8 of his 14 or whatever it was there in the fourth quarter. Had 8 rebounds too, a couple of assists. Not a great game necessarily, but in the last 5 minutes of the game, Parker came up with a couple of big baskets, including a dunk, and was a factor down the stretch for this team.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that really impressed me about Parker was he got off to a horrible start, and you could see that it was the jitters, but then he bounced back. He showed some resiliency, and he came up big in the fourth quarter. That's the type of player I expect Jabari Parker to be. I think he's going to be just an exceptional player.
Another guy you better keep an eye on, too, is Chris Middleton. Middleton came up big again in that game last night, game one, I should say, in the fourth quarter of that game down the stretch. Middleton was really the one that kind of helped win that game for the Bucks. He also started at small forward in game one. Giannis came off the bench. It was typical Giannis, didn't do much of anything. But
does that surprise you?
That Middleton started?
No. Giannis didn't start.
To a little bit, but Jason Kidd had said all along that he's doing different lineups pretty much every game.
But don't you think from day one you'd come out with the 5 guys?
Not according to Kidd.
Well, I mean,
according to Kidd, he's going to keep
I agree. But if you look at most of the teams around the NBA, they came with their starters. Speaking of which, did you see how many minutes the San Antonio Spurs guys played the other night? Duncan, Parker, all those guys?
They lost.
in just their first game. They're coming off a world championship. They were playing in excess of 30 minutes for the first preseason game.
That's because it was an international game, and I guarantee you the NBA put heat on them that if you're going to go play this international game, you have to play your guys.
But when does Pop ever succumb to the heat? I mean, he's told the NBA where to go on a few occasions.
I don't think Silver is a guy you're going to mess with right now.
Well, I said that about Stern, too. I mean, it's like, I think Stern would be more of a hard-headed guy to deal with than Silver. But anyways, my point is, I was shocked to see that many minutes. With the Bucks, it was pretty much, hey, Parker, Sanders, and Knight, I think they got the ball to the base, and they were up around 30. And I was glad to see
Sanders had 15 rebounds, played well.
He played very well. I mean, it looks like he's really serious about playing. Now, how long he plays remains to be seen.
Again, I've had this conversation numerous times about Larry Sanders. He's had one good year in the NBA. It was a really good year.
Half a year.
Well, how do you want to look at it?
Yeah.
But he's had that 1 year, okay?
Right.
So can he do that again? And I said this on the Big Show the other day on Sports Radio 105.7 FM The Fan. This is what I don't know. Because I don't know Larry Sanders that well. I mean, it's not like him and I, hang out and have drinks.
Come on.
But I don't know.
Go clubbing together.
This is what I don't know. You don't know if he's in it for the money. You don't know if he's in it for all the perks that comes with being an NBA player, or is he in it to be a great player, a guy that wants to eventually be, an all-star every year, a guy that wants to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know what drives Larry Sanders. Only Larry Sanders knows what drives Larry Sanders. If he's just in it for the money, cast a check, and be like, see you after this contract, then there's no way he's going to put together another year like he did. He's just not, because he doesn't care about the long term. It's the NBA. It's guaranteed money. That's what we're going to find out about Larry Sanders the next 4 years. If he brings it every year at a high level, then we know what drives him. If he comes back and he's all over the place, then
Larry Sanders' biggest, worst enemy is himself.
Sure.
If he stays
focused,
clean, focused, you got to remember he got suspended last year for 5 games for violating NBA drug policy.
And is he done with that? Do we know if he's done with that?
For that, I mean, as far as smoking?
Yes.
We don't
because
know.
Remember, he came out and almost defended it.
Absolutely.
Right? So, I mean, I don't know. You would assume he's done because he didn't want to get suspended again, but I don't know.
But here's where the Bucks are flirting with fire. They know this. They tried trading him. There's no interest out there because of his contract, his off-the-court issues, etc. But the bottom line is, if he screws up once again, it's 10 games that he's going to have to sit out.
But again, it goes back to what you're in it for. You know, it's not going to. If he's not in it to be great, if he's not in it to be an all-star every year, he's not going to care if he's sitting at home for 10 games.
Yeah.
Because then you're not a team player, you're a me player. And he talks all the time about wanting to be the leader on the team. I want to be the guy. Blah blah blah. Well, you haven't acted like a leader or wanting to be the guy since you've been here. So I'm not exactly sure.
I will say this: in practice, he has acted like a leader. I mean, he's really tried to get the guys.
But you can't get suspended and claim to be a leader. You can't get in club fights and claim to be a leader. You can't do all that and then turn around and go, I want to mow Giannis. No, I don't want you near Giannis.
Yeah, well, not only Giannis, Parker.
Well, that's another one.
I mean, Parker's the franchise.
But I don't think...
You cannot mess that kid up.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be. Parker seems like he's got his stuff together. Like, he's not as impressionable. Giannis seems raw and impressionable. Like, you could mold Giannis into what you want if you have a strong enough personality.
I agree.
That's what my concern is there. Now, having said that, the other thing that comes out of last night, you saw what I thought was going to happen. Bayless playing the 2 with Kendall Marshall at the 1. Walters then comes in at the point 2. Jerry Bayless is going to be more of a 2 guard than he is going to be a point guard on this team, without question.
Well, I mean, the speculation around the NBA is that Jared Bayless is in Milwaukee for one reason, because he's a friend of Jason Kidd's.
Great.
You know?
Fine.
You just got to wonder how good he is. I mean, there wasn't a lot of interest in him, you know, in free agency.
He can score.
He can. He's capable, but he's an undersized shooting guard.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But again, if you have, I think the interesting player is Mail. What do you do with Mail? He didn't play last night. And I'm curious to see going forward how much he plays. Because if O.J. Mayo doesn't get his minutes, he's got to play 24 or more.
Realistically, he's your 6th man.
I know, but
if he can be that scorer off the bench for you, that's what you need.
I totally agree.
Then we can start at the 2. That's
there's no way in heck he's going to accept that role. And if
he's been a 6th man before in Memphis,
and reluctantly.
Well, whatever.
And okay, again, if his minutes aren't there, he's not going to be a happy camper. I'll tell you what, the way the Bucks roster is now constituted, they could have a lot of internal problems this year. You know, everything's rosy right now. But if Ersan doesn't get his minutes, if Mayo doesn't get his minutes, even Kendall Marshall. I think Kendall Marshall is coming here thinking like he's going to play a lot of minutes based on what he did last year.
I think he will. I think he'll be the main backup to Brandon Knight. I think Brandon Knight will probably play 30 minutes a night. Mm-hmm. Kendall Marshall will get the rest of the minutes at point guard. I don't think Nate Walters is going to play at all. I don't. And this is the other thing.
He could be the odd guy out, no doubt. Right. Which is unfortunate because Nate Walters, I thought, at times last year was one of the steadiest players on the floor for the Bucks.
Now, what role does John Henson have?
Again, I think it all hinges on Sanders. If Sanders, you know...
So he's going to be the center, backup center, him and Zaza.
Right.
I would be the 2 backup centers.
And he played well last night.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, he put on, I think, 15 pounds. We were talking about this the other day. And he worked out at a place in Tampa during the summer. He's from Tampa. But it's a place where a lot of football players work out. So he was working out with more football players than basketball players, one of them being Sammy Watkins.
Oh, nice.
The sensational Buffalo Bills rookie wide receiver.
Right.
So John is really focused. I really noticed that he's not as, I'm not going to say goofy, but he seems more focused, more concerned about what he's going to do.
He's an easily likable guy.
Very much so.
If you've ever had a conversation with him, you want to root for him, you want him to do well.
No question.
Very, very likable. But whether or not that dedication to focus is there has been a knock on him under, I think, John Hammond to a degree, who came on the big show last year, just pretty much said, look, we give him stuff to do in the offseason to put on weight and everything else, we expect him to follow it.
Yeah.
We do this, we do that, and then he doesn't do what we're asking him to do.
Right.
What are we going to do about it?
You know, the interesting thing, and again, it was only the first preseason game of the season, But last night, when they made their run with the 5 players on the floor with Parker night, John Henson was on the floor.
Yep.
And I thought that was interesting because Kidd wants players that are consistent, they know their roles, and most importantly, can pass the ball.
If I could trade Ersan and Mayo, I would. They'd both be gone. If it was me, if I was John Hammond and I could get a second-round pick from Mayo or whatever it was, see ya. And if I could move Ersan, I'd move Ersan too. And I know you're looking at me going, well, Ersan can help you win.
No. I'm open to trading Ersan.
You are? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's a full-fledged.
I just don't want problems that they don't get minutes because there's a chance they both may not.
But see, why didn't they do a preemptive strike? They know this has happened.
I agree.
All summer they had opportunities to trade. Now, I'm not saying they could have traded Mayo or they could have traded Sanders because they're big, which makes it really tough to deal. But they could have traded Ersan.
Yep.
And unless they feel like, hey, Ursan's going to come in and play 30 minutes.
If you're sold on Henson, he's your 4.
Absolutely.
Coming off the bench with Parker. Or he's your 4 and Parker's your 3. I don't really care how you do it. But if Henson's your guy and you think you've got Henson fixed, he's got more of an upside at this point. Play him then.
Exactly. I mean, it's the old Larry Bird saying, are we all in?
Right.
If you're going to do a project, do it all the way.
I agree.
Don't do it half-butt.
Yeah. It was, I'll tell you one other thing. We got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But we talked about this on the ride over here. It's good that they won that game. I mean, you're down 15 early on because you look like last year's team. And then you come back and then you figure out a way to win a close game. And for a bunch of guys on this team that lost and lost and lost and lost, each one of these exhibition games that they win is a big deal.
I couldn't agree with you more. The Bucks are an intriguing team. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I agree. Here's Gery Woelfel. I am Steve Sparky Fifer. Thanks for watching another edition of Sports Junkies talking Bucks basketball. We'll talk to you next week right here at RacineSportsZone.com.